Did you guys go to bed? Hello? Are you here? I'm like, it's late. I know. So I'm only going to be, I don't know that we'll get through this whole entire day, but we'll try. But it's late. And I had a busy weekend. So hold on. I can't breathe. Hi, Sam. I hit the pen before I came up. Sorry. Hey, Sam Unstoppable. Where you been, Sam Unstoppable? Hello, Pantera. Hello, Witch. I saw Miss P, number 7. Who else? At least you skipped a day. Oh. I wasn't gonna. I actually had a whole day of lives planned out yesterday, but you know what? Life is too short. Life is too short to not spend it with the people that I love. So I spent it with my family. And I don't regret it. I had a good time. I always do. So I'm gonna get caught up. We're not doing Amelia After Dark tonight, but we are tomorrow. I'm gonna try to do either my first live of true crime and then either catch up on Karen Reed or After Darks. It is, and dads are cool. So we'll probably watch. This is day 17. I think they're literally on the verdict. I know. Don't tell me anything. Don't tell you. Tell you. Tell me. I swear this is my first. I lied. My second beer of the day. I'm already on the highlight. Yeah, I've only had one Modelo, so. But I do have to work tomorrow, so we're gonna try to get through this day, but I need to get caught up. I don't want to skip anything. I'm being OCD about the Karen Reed trial. I think because I watched it so religiously the first time and I've been invested, I'm like, I can't miss it. I have to watch all of it. Like, so if this day is boring, because I don't know who's gonna be on here. I know I think the medical examiner. I want to see the defense do their thing. Wait, didn't they already? Oh yeah, they did. Alessi did. And then I can't wait for Crash Daddy to come back on the stage. I'm a vodka seltzer kind of girl. Nurse spot. Vodka seltzer. I like seltzers in general. So oh, the vodka seltzers. Oh, that was a tequila one. I still never was able to figure it out. By the way, the VMC, how to open the can. Nope, still sitting in the fridge. So maybe I'll drink that on the After Dark tomorrow. The jury is taking their time. What do we think is going to happen in this case? Like, let's talk. What do you guys truly think is going to happen? Guilty, not guilty, or mistrial? Jules, the medical examiners. I'm always like, we'll skip the boring parts, but honestly, really, if you follow the case and you know like everything, there's no boring parts. Like, even when people are somewhat boring out there, like I think it's all so important, especially in a trial that involves corruption and police being unethical. I do believe in speaking out as a whole. I think that matters when it comes to politics and whatnot. And I'm so sad about just everything going on in the world. I'm not a political channel, but I kind of want to cover some of it. I think it's important, just like the riots, the protests, and now all the hate going on overseas. It's too much. A world full of hate. It's quite disgusting. Then you come on YouTube and you have people being fucking jerk ass haters. So I'm like, oh, great. Yeah, cool. I go there to have fun and then run into fuckeries and assholes. Pardon the French. This will be members only after tonight. Melly after min. Oh, thank you, Berrywood. Oh, yeah, it is late. Jules, it's late. Hello, Eternal. I'm keeping Jules up. Thank you, Jules, for being here. It really does mean a lot for you guys that show up and support my channel. I haven't even been live streaming for a year, and we have made some strides here, and I'm so proud, and I appreciate you guys. Unethical. Pantera. Yeah. I believe it's 7. What did I miss? Guilty. Oh, which thinks she'll be guilty? Do you guys want to know what I really think? Okay. I think Diddy will get some time. He might be let out early, or he might be part of, like Joel said. And then I think Karen Reid, as much as I don't want her to be found guilty, I think she might. Or something. Like, I think she really might. I hope not. And I hope that something is done about the corruption within Canton PD. But I just think that, I don't know. I mean, it just takes one person, right? Hey, Michelle. Oh, yeah, we just ended the Diddy live. I feel like it's taking too long for the jury if they were just going to say not guilty. Yeah. I don't know. I'm nervous. I'm nervous about them both of them cases. Okay, but let's see. I'm not sure who's back on the stand for D17.
Be careful to make sure you don't do that, and out of respect to the lawyers who worked so hard to get this case before. Okay? Thank you very much. With that, Mr. Brennan, your first witness, please.
Or if I could begin by
Yeah, it's 3
offering a
times
stipulation that's agreed to between the parties.
Okay, can we turn the AC down, please?
I just don't want that whole Canteen PD, and like all of them should be fired. All of them should be fired. Like Proctor got fired, Bukaki. All of it is just Morrissey needs to be out of the DA's office. Like all of it, bye, or else don't find her guilty. Because like Sandra Birchmore, I mean, if they don't like, if Poopa Proctor got fired, I think they all should get fired. So same with Higgy the Piggy, yeah. The whole thing stinks.
Thank you. Yes.
Your Honor, if I may, I'd like to read a stipulation agreement between the Commonwealth and the defense.
Okay.
And the stipulation between the parties is as follows.
I'm
now
texting,
comes the Commonwealth and Karen Reid, the defendant, in the above captioned matter. Both parties respectfully stipulate to the following. The 2 Massachusetts State Police troopers present at the autopsy conducted by the medical examiner, Dr. Scortibello, on January 31st, 2022, were Trooper Keefe and Trooper Watson, former trooper.
Oh, I'm sorry, Michelle, I missed your question. Did anyone see the reception of the car ride to find John in the snow? Oh, recreation. Yeah, microdots? We watch microdots a lot here. We support. We love. Okay, wait. I always come up here, and you guys call me out if I don't, because those of you who have been here with me know my ass. I always come up here and give credit, whether it's Plunder, my girl Plunder, whether it's whoever it is. I will link it. I'm going to update my descriptions this week, but I always give credit. And I'm so annoying, and I'm not even going to say any names. I don't want to say names. A creator like hit me up for content the other day, and then he like the first time he hit me up for content, he didn't give me credit, and I was like, you really thought I was gonna hook you up again after you didn't give me credit, boy? Anyways, what was I saying? Why did I go off on this rant? Don't remember. Oh, microdots. Microdots. We love microdots. Wait, Michelle, is that how you said it? I almost watched it. Don't, Michelle, don't watch. Don't watch. Cannot betray me. Don't betray me. I know I'm behind. I promise we will get caught up this week. I almost want to take a day off work and just do Karen Reed all day until I'm caught up. Seriously? Yeah, Jules. It's a well-known male, too. I'm so petty. I resisted the urge, says Michelle. Hey, I'm only petty because I always come with proof. I do. But we're not getting into that today. That's for an after dark when the balls are up. Uh-oh. Says Jules.
Bert Michael Proctor was not present.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I'll shut up now.
And
Yes, thank you.
with that, Your Honor, I'd like to introduce and play clip number 21.
Okay.
Chill out, yo.
Oh, turn the AC off. Hold on 1 second, please. I just want that. Can the jurors hear better with that on?
No buzzball tonight. No. I have
So
to
John's laying there.
behave at least once, right? Once like a week or something. Those buzzballs mess me up. I broke up with the buzzballs. Broke up with them. I did. I broke up with them. Get run. I don't know who sent you all these trolls. Like, I'm flattered. Justice for Boston Oakley. Right, Justice Jane. Justice for Officer John. I say this in every single live I do with Karen Reed. I'm like, it's tainted. My heart breaks because I will never be true justice. There's been so much going on with this case. And John's not here to speak on any of it, clearly. So I'm sad. I'm a male. Okay. Let's see.
There, his left and his right, and I approached John from the left. That's where the street is. And he had a piece of glass, like perched on his nose, like just wedged like a splinter would be. And I just pulled it, and as soon as I pulled it, it just gushed blood down his face.
So we need this marked.
Yes. You have the item.
Exhibit 169.
Thank you, Justice Jane, for that badge number. 2490.
Your Honor, the Commonwealth calls Andre Porto to the stand.
Okay, we know number 7 thinks Karen is guilty. We know. We can agree to disagree here. That's the thing about my channel. I'll talk my shit. You can talk some shit. Don't be rude though, because then I'll time you out. But we can have where I accept differing opinions. I'm open to it. And I'm welcoming to all. So unless you're an asshole. But anyways, nonetheless, we're good. We good. We good all up in Mellyverse. She pulled the tail light out. Really? Do you really believe that? I don't even think you believe that.
Do you solemnly swear the evidence given to the court and jury in the case now and hearing should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do.
So help me God.
Morning. Hey, Mr. Lally,
What the
whenever
hell
you're ready.
is this?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury, spelling your last name for the court?
Yeah, my name is Andre Porto, last name spelled Porto.
And what do you do for work,
I
sir?
don't like him.
I'm a forensic scientist too in the DNA unit at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab.
And where did you go to school?
Wait.
I received my undergraduate Bachelor
where
of
he
Science in Microbiology from the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. And then I received a Master of Science in Biomedical Forensic Sciences at the Boston University School of Medicine.
Now, following your
Watch out. I'm going to be the next forensic scientist. I have a degree in biomedical science. I saw Bev and threw up a bit about stop. No, they're made. Good question, Michelle. Are taillights made out of glass? No, baby. They're made out of polycarbonate, which is super strong. I mentioned this one time in my life. I don't think you were here yet. It was like how strong. I Googled it. How strong is polycarbonate? I think that's what it is. Significantly stronger than glass, often being 250 times more resistant to impact, girl. You ain't gonna tell me, Yeah, okay, let's see.
Your education, where did you go to work?
I started at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab in the DNA unit.
And how long have you worked at the state lab?
Slow down.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
How long have you worked at the state lab, sir?
Since September 2019.
Now, when you joined the lab, what was your position and title that you were initially hired for?
I was hired as a forensic scientist 1.
Now, can you please explain to the jury your duties and responsibilities as a forensic scientist 1?
Sure. So a forensic scientist 1 is a trainee position where we're hired and we undergo an extensive training program where we do undergo the analysis process in training casework samples, where we learn how to do the lab work and analyze profiles. And at the end of this training, I took a competency test to make sure that I was able to accurately conduct the DNA analysis process. And once I passed that, I
think I can gift memberships tonight, so I'll gift at some point. Hopefully Jules gets one. Fast talking is a sign of nervousness too. Yeah.
then put on to do casework. And a year after completing both my competency tests and a year after my hire date, I was then promoted to a forensic scientist 2.
And so you're currently a forensic scientist 2, is that correct?
Correct.
And what is the difference between a forensic scientist 1 and a forensic scientist 2?
So a forensic scientist 2 is just the automatic promotion that you get after a year of hire and passing the initial competency test. And we're able to do the DNA process in casework samples.
Now, sir, what type of analysis do you currently do at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory?
I can do the DNA analysis process in casework and known samples. That includes the lab work as well as analyzing the DNA profiles that are generated from the work.
Now, first, just in general terms, but specifically with reference to DNA analysis, can you explain to the jury how is that analysis performed?
Sure. So there's 4 steps in the analysis process. The first step is extraction, where we apply heat and chemicals to the samples to break open the cells and release that DNA to be available for use. Step 2 is called quantitation, where we take a small sample of that extracted DNA to estimate, and we use chemicals and run it through an instrument.
This guy did not testify in the first trial, Michelle, and verdict coming tomorrow. Don't tell me anything. I don't even want to hear it. La la la. I'm gonna have to plug my ears, close my eyes, not look on anything on YouTube until I stream, because I want to wait till I get there. I'm so freaking behind. We might have to do a Karen Read all-nighter ASAP, babes, ASAP. Pantera.
To estimate how much DNA we extracted. And then we proceed to step 3, which is called amplification. And that's basically, think of it as a molecular photocopier, where we target specific areas of the DNA to make millions of copies of it. And then we run it through, go to detection, where we run it through an instrument, and we generate the DNA profile as an electronic file on a computer.
Now, is the state lab where you work accredited?
No,
Yes,
Jules, I hope you get
And by
one.
whom?
We are accredited by an organization called ANAB, which stands for ANSI National Accreditation Board, and ANSI stands for American National Standards Institute.
Oh,
I
Jules.
need you to slow down, please.
Please.
Sorry.
Oh my God, even Bev is slow down. He's totally nervous. Jules, you didn't get it. I'm so mad. But we got 5 new members. Welcome, new members. Nez is one of them. Wait, I made you upset? Oh. Jules was like, who got those people? Wait, I made me? How am I made me? Welcome, new members. I know, I did try to give you one. Jules. I love you.
Sorry.
Now, Mr. Porter, are there steps taken in your lab during that process that you were just explaining to prevent against
Wait, why am I
contamination?
being mean?
Yes, there are.
And can you explain what those are?
Why am I
Sure.
being
So
mean?
there are
How?
various steps. One step to prevent
I need to see. How am I being mean? Who's being mean? Me? I've never even seen that. Jules is like, you're welcome, BMG. Oh, not me. Number 7 was. Number 7, you might be nice. Do you want me to tiny or spank you? Just kidding. Be nice to which, please.
Contamination between analysts would be to bleach and wipe down the workstations
I'm
before
sorry, I
use
tried
and
to
after. Another way to prevent DNA transfer from analysts to the samples is to wear personal protective equipment, such as lab coats, gloves, masks, hairnets, and beard guards. And a way to prevent transfer from sample to sample would be to frequently change gloves, as well as only have.
Thank you, Michelle. We're glad you found us. We're wild here, but we're cool people. Bev was like, dude, slow down. To the poor Andre.
One sample open at a time.
He's just nervous.
Now,
I think, but I've
with
never
your
met.
work at the lab, is there a review process that your work undergoes?
Yes, there is.
Dirty boy,
And
you.
can you describe that process for the jury?
Sure. So once I complete my work,
I'm not drunk. I swear either. This is me sober.
The first is a technical review where another qualified analyst will take the file and they'll do their own independent assessment and make sure that they come up with the conclusions and that they agree with the conclusions that I reached. And they'll also make sure that all the protocols were followed and every decision is scientifically sound. Once that review is completed, it undergoes an administrative review, where another qualified analyst will then look through the file and they look for clerical errors, such as typos or missing page numbers or missing case numbers. Once those 2 reviews are completed, the results can then be reported out.
Now, as a part of that accreditation process
Relevant,
that you were speaking
please.
about a few moments ago, do you undergo anything called proficiency testing?
Yes, I do.
And can you explain to the jury what that proficiency testing process consists of?
Yeah, so a proficiency test is a test that's administered twice a year by an external vendor. And the results of this test are not known to the analyst at the time. And we basically treat it like it's a real case where it undergoes the analysis process as if it were a real case. And this test is used to show that the analyst is demonstrates ongoing competency in the DNA analysis process. And successful completion of the test is required to maintain qualification as an analyst.
And what areas do you specifically undergo proficiency testing in?
DNA analysis.
And have you successfully completed each of those proficiency tests that you've taken?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Porto, could you explain to the jury what exactly is DNA?
Yeah, so DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid, and it's basically the building block that makes us who we are. We each have 2 copies of our DNA, one that we inherit from mom and one that we inherit from dad. And that this combination makes sure that, barring with the exception of identical twins, we all have different DNA.
And is DNA the same in every cell of a person's body?
Yes. So what that means is, if I were to take a blood sample and a saliva sample from the same person, the same DNA profile will be generated.
Now, you spoke a bit earlier about the different steps included in the DNA testing. If you could, just a little bit slower, go through each of those 4 steps again for the jury.
Sure. So like I said, it's a 4-step process. So extraction, quantitation, amplification, and detection. So extraction, we use chemicals and heat to burst open the cells to make that DNA available for use. Quantitation, step 2, we take a small sample of that extracted DNA. We use a different set of chemicals and an instrument to estimate how much DNA is available for use. Amplification is the 3rd step, which I mentioned is the basically molecular photocopier, where it makes millions of copies of specific areas of the DNA. And then the 4th and last step is detection, where we run those amplified copies through an instrument and generate the DNA profile as an electronic file on the computer.
We're spicy here. Don't say I didn't warn you.
Now, Mr. Porto, what is STR?
So STR stands for short tandem repeats, and they're the locations that we're making the millions of copies of.
Now, in your work at the lab, do you have something that's referred to as a known item?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jury what a known item is?
Sure. So a known item is an item that's taken directly from a person to be used as a reference sample, so we know what the source of that profile is.
And conversely, what is a questioned item?
A questioned item is an item that's taken, let's say, from a crime scene where we don't know what the source is.
Between this and the Brian Kober with a touch DNA, I mean, we're going to be literally licensed professionals by the end of these trials.
Now, do you
All of
also
us.
have terminology within your lab as far as a parent versus
Thanks,
a child
Wormtown.
item?
Yes, we do.
And can you explain how those labels are and how they reference to what you do in your work?
Sure. So a parent item is, for example, the original item, and the child is a sample of that item. So, for example, this box of tissues would be the parent item, and if you were to swab the outside, the swab would be the child item. So the box of tissues would receive, let's say, an item of 1-1. The swabbing of the outside would receive an item of
We should make
1-1.1.
this. This is a good business.
Now, what are positive
Okay.
and negative controls?
Yeah, so a positive control is a control that has it's a known sample with a known DNA profile that we
Cute,
use in
Colonel.
every step of the DNA analysis process
Awesome.
to make sure that each step and instrument worked as expected and properly. And then a negative control is a sample that has no DNA in it. It only
I'm glad you found us, Eternal. I'm curious. How did you find me? How did you find me? No, now don't be no trolls in here. I know the trolls love me, but no trolls.
receives the chemicals that we use, and that's to ensure that the chemicals that we're using don't have any
How'd you find
DNA
me?
inherent to them.
Now, when you as an analyst or a forensic scientist too are assigned work within the DNA unit, where do you retrieve that evidence from?
Yeah, so I retrieve it from a locked cold room that's only accessible via keycard.
Now, why are items kept in cold storage?
Yeah, the cold storage helps preserve the DNA for long-term storage.
And as far as the heat versus the cold, why is it that it's specifically kept, or why does the coldness of the storage room help preserve the item?
The cold can help prevent, let's say, growth of bacteria and mold that can degrade DNA.
And what does heat do conversely in reference to an item of forensic value?
Heat can help degrade DNA, and it also promotes bacterial and mold growth that can further degrade that DNA.
Now, when you receive an item from the cold storage, how is that item typically packaged when you retrieve it from there?
Sure. So the item comes in these plastic, clear, transparent plastic sealed containers that has a label with a case number on it. And
Sealed containers, like red Solo cups, like red Solo cups. Blah.
inside of that, each sample is within like a small plastic
I was
tube
being
that has a
an
label with a case number and item number.
Now, at some point, were you assigned to perform some work on a lab case number 22-02184 pertaining to this defendant, Karen Reed?
Yes, I did.
And what type of work in general terms were you assigned to do in this case?
I was assigned to do the DNA analysis process.
And that was on several items, is that correct?
Correct.
And could you explain to the jury the sort of the process that you used to analyze evidence in this case?
Sure. So the case underwent the 4 steps that I explained before. So extraction, quantitation, amplification, and detection.
And there was a known standard that was done in this case, specifically in item number 8-1.1.1, is that correct?
Correct.
And did another analyst test and report the results from the known blood standard from that item 8-1.1.1?
Correct.
And how is that done?
Yeah, so that undergoes the same process that I explained. It'll go through the 4 steps: extraction, quantitation, amplification, detection, and then the analysts that did the interpretation and reported that out, the known standard out, they went through the profile to make sure that it's one person or single source. And once that went through the review process that I explained, so technical and administrative review, and once that was all completed, the standard was available to be used for comparisons.
And to whom was that known standard identified as belonging to?
John O'Keefe.
Now, you used the word in there as far as a single source. Can you explain to the jury what your understanding of that term is based on your training and experience?
Sure. So a single source is just a DNA profile that has one contributor to it. So only one person contributed DNA to that profile.
Now, what exactly is a DNA profile?
Yeah, so a DNA profile is basically the combination of all of the locations that we amplified during the 3rd step of the process. And it's basically, you can think of it as like a chart, like an EKG, where it has peaks and valleys, and each peak has a specific number, and the DNA profile is just a combination of all those numbers put together.
Now, can you explain to the jury in general terms, to start with, the process of comparison between a known standard and a questioned or unknown standard?
Sure. So first, I did the analysis on the question items. I did the 4 steps. I analyzed the profiles that were generated. I then interpreted, make sure that I could determine the number of contributors. And once that was completed, I then used the standard that was available and compared them to all the profiles that were suitable for comparison.
Now, sir, starting with item 3-1.1, what was that a sample from?
That was a sample from taillight passenger.
And from a specific vehicle, is that correct?
Correct.
And what, if any, information were you given as to that vehicle that the swab from the taillight was from?
Do you mean like the license plate?
Yes.
Could I refer to my notes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, this is a little detail.
I have a problem. Does the defense
Day
object?
17, Karen Reed. We just started,
Thank you, Your
Abuelitas.
Honor.
Glad you made it.
So the license plate was 3G6684. Wait, I'm sorry, 3GC684.
Now, with reference to the swab from the taillight, were you able to generate a DNA profile from that item?
I was.
And from your comparative analysis from that question item to that of the known standard of John O'Keefe, what did you conclude?
So the DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors, including male DNA. And the DNA profile from this item is at least, I'm so sorry.
Oh my God,
I'll
he's
just
so
restart.
nervous.
So the
Hi,
DNA
Jojo.
profile was interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors, including male DNA. And the DNA profile from this item is at least 510 non-alien times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown, unrelated individuals. This provides.
Did you hear that? 3 unknown individuals, DNA on John O'Keefe. Who the hell is that? Is it the dog? No. Human DNA. Could have been random people, fingerprints maybe getting on him from someone sitting at his on his couches. No. Who are those 3 unknown male DNAs? I'm gonna rewind that. I'm gonna back that ass up. Just kidding. Rewinding the life. This, y'all saying he got beat up. I know. Weren't they meaning? I don't want to share anything. Number 7. He got beat up. I'm stuck on that. You know, I actually listened to another YouTuber today, and he's actually someone I really like. What's his name? It's somebody new I started watching. Well, you guys know it after that because I got beat up. And I like his stuff, and his opinions usually pretty like spot on. And he was like, I'm a little shook, but the evidence points to Karen Reed hit John. And I'm like, I was so shocked. Okay.
A profile from that item.
I was.
And from your comparative analysis from that question item to that of the known standard of John O'Keefe, what did you conclude?
So the sample,
think you're gonna
the
get
DNA
beat
profile
up
was
for being
interpreted as
late.
a mixture of 3 contributors, including male DNA. And the DNA profile from this item is at least.
Just kidding. We love Austin here.
I'll just restart.
He's
The
so
DNA profile was
nervous.
interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors,
My
including
boyfriend.
male DNA. And the DNA profile from this item is at least 510 non-alien times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown, unrelated individuals. This provides support for an inclusion.
Now, sir, what does that mean?
So an inclusion is basically when I look at the question DNA profile that was generated, and I compare it to the known DNA profile. And if the characteristics of the known profile are consistent with the characteristics observed in the question DNA profile, that's an inclusion.
Now, as far as that number, 510 non-alien, how many zeros in that number?
So a non-alien is a 1 followed by 30 zeros.
Now, that profile, in addition to Mr. O'Keefe's profile,
30?
also had 2 unknown contributors, correct?
Correct.
Now, was that
No.
item also submitted to an outside vendor named Bodhi Technologies for further analysis?
Correct.
And with reference to your comparative analysis from the profile from this item to Mr. O'Keefe profile, if you could again just expound upon what does inclusion mean?
Yes, so an inclusion, I compared the known standard that I had available for use from John O'Keefe to the DNA profile generated from the tail light, and the DNA profile was, if that was consistent with the DNA profile that I observed in the questioned item, and that's what an inclusion means.
Now, regarding item 3-6, what is the description of that item?
Yeah, so 3-6 is a root end
I
of
just
hair.
like want to give this guy a big hug. Like, he's so nervous on the stand. You know what I mean? It's like a high profile case of corruption and, you know, and murder. And Hickey being a pig. But anyways, and Proctor too. You know, I feel for this guy. Like, he's just so nervous up on the stand.
From exterior passenger side rear panel.
And is that the same vehicle as far as the taillight sample?
Correct.
Now, with respect to hair in general,
Yep.
there's a root end and a shaft end, correct?
Correct.
And what limitations does your lab have with regard to DNA testing of hair?
So when we test hair, we're actually, the root end of the hair, we're looking at any potential skin cells that might be attached to the root end. So that's where the DNA that we're looking for is coming from. And if there's not too many, yeah.
Now, are you familiar with the term based on your training experience?
He's like, I'm
autosomal
oversharing.
DNA?
Yes.
And can you describe for the jury what your understanding of that term is?
Yeah, so autosomal DNA is DNA that's located in the nucleus of the cell, and that's the DNA that we inherit from both mom and dad.
Now, are you also familiar, based on your training experience, with a term known as mitochondrial DNA?
Yes.
And can you please explain to the jury what your understanding of the term mitochondrial DNA is?
Yeah, so mitochondrial DNA is DNA that's found in the mitochondria of a cell, and we inherit that from the mother.
It may be somewhat evident, but could you please explain to the jury sort of the difference between autosomal DNA on the one hand and mitochondrial DNA on the other?
Yeah, so like I said, the autosomal DNA is the one that we have 2 copies of, where we inherit one from mom and one from dad. And then the mitochondrial DNA is a circular DNA that we just inherit from mom.
Now, is the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab equipped to perform mitochondrial DNA testing?
No, we're not.
Oh,
Was the DNA extract from the hair also sent to that external vendor, Bodie Technologies, in Lorton, Virginia?
I'm not sure if the extract was sent, but I know that the shaft of the hair was sent to Bodie.
Now, what testing did you perform on the hair?
I did the regular DNA analysis process on the root end of the hair.
And that was done prior to it being shipped to that external vendor, is that correct?
Correct.
And what conclusions were you able to draw from the testing that you did on the hair?
Yeah, so there was no human DNA detected, and STR analysis was not performed.
Now, what does that mean, sir?
Yeah, so it means that I didn't detect any human DNA. So there might be DNA on there, but it was below what our instrumentation could detect.
Now, turning your attention to item 3-2.1.1, what is the description related to that item, sir?
It's a sample from the exterior of broken drinking glass.
And is there any further indication as far as the broken drinking glass, as far as where it was recovered?
Oh, yeah, 34 Fairview Road.
And were you able to generate a DNA profile from this item, the drinking glass?
Yes, I was.
And from your comparative analysis from this question item to that of the known standard of John O'Keefe, what did you conclude?
Yeah, so the DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors, including male DNA. The DNA profile from this item is at least 530 non-million times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown, unrelated individuals. This supports an inclusion.
And this is the last time I'll ask you this, but just if you could reiterate to the jury, what does an inclusion mean?
Yep, so an inclusion is when I compared the known standard to the question item, and if the profile in the known standard is consistent with the profile in the question profile, that's an inclusion.
And that number again, as far as 530 non-alien, how many zeros again in that number?
That's a 1 followed by 30 zeros.
30 0.
Now, sir, if I could turn your attention to
I need
another
another
item,
drink.
7-1.2.1, what is the description related to that item?
I need another drink.
Sample
A
from
drink
stain
and my
A
cup.
on upper right leg of jeans.
And is there any further indication as to whom those genes belong to?
John O'Keefe.
Now, were you also able to generate a DNA profile from this item, the stain A on the upper right leg of Mr. O'Keefe's jeans?
Yes, I was.
And from your comparative analysis from the question item to that of the known standard of John O'Keefe, what did you conclude with reference to that item?
The DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors, including male DNA. Contributor 1 is suitable for comparison, and due to limited information, contributors 2 and 3 are not suitable for comparison. The DNA profile from this item is at least 570 non-alien times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown, unrelated individuals. This provides support for an inclusion.
Thank you, sir. Now turning your attention to item 7-1.3.1, what is the description related to that item?
Sample from stain B on upper right leg of jeans.
And same genes as the previous item?
Yes.
Now, were you able to generate a DNA profile from this item, stain B, on the upper right leg of the genes of Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes, I was.
And from your comparative analysis from this questioned item to that of the known standard of John O'Keefe, what did you conclude?
Yep, so the DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors, including male DNA. The DNA profile from this item is at least 660 non-alien times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown, unrelated individuals. This provides support for an inclusion.
Now, sir, with reference to item 7-1.4.1, and again, these items with the dash and the point, is that what you were referring to earlier as the parent-child relationship between items?
Yes.
And what is the description for 7-1.4.1?
Sample from stain C on upper right leg of jeans.
Now, were you able to generate a DNA profile from this item from stain C on the upper right leg of Mr. O'Keefe's jeans?
Yes, I was.
And from your comparative analysis of this question item, stain C, to that of the known standard of John O'Keefe, what did you conclude?
The DNA profile is a mixture of at least 2 contributors, including male DNA. Contributor 1 is suitable for comparison. Due to limited information, contributor 2 is not suitable for comparison. The DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 2 contributors. The DNA profile from this item is at least 830 non-alien times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe and an unknown individual than if it originated from 2 unknown, unrelated individuals. This provides support for an inclusion.
Now, sir, with reference to item 7-1.5.1, what was the description of that?
Sample from stain D on upper right leg of jeans.
Now, were you able to generate a DNA profile from this item from stain D on the upper right leg of Mr. O'Keefe's jeans?
Yes, I was.
And from your comparative analysis from this item to the known standard of John O'Keefe, what did you conclude?
The DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors, including male DNA. The DNA profile from this item is at least 670 non-alien times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown, unrelated individuals. This provides support for an inclusion.
Rewind that about the
sir,
DNA.
Did you also do some description related to that item, sir? Profile from this item to Mr. O'Keefe profile. If you could again just expound upon what does inclusion mean?
Yeah, he had
so
grass stains on his jeans.
I compared the known standard
Hey, dogs.
that I had available for use from John O'Keefe to the DNA profile generated from the tail light, and the DNA profile was consistent with the DNA profile that I observed in the questioned item, and that's what an inclusion means.
Now, regarding item 3-6, what is the description of that item?
Yeah, so 3-6 is a root end of hair from exterior passenger side rear panel.
And is that the same vehicle as far as the taillight sample?
Correct.
Now, with respect to hair in general, there's a root end and a shaft end, correct?
Correct.
And what limitations does your lab have with regard to DNA testing of hair?
So when we test hair, we're actually, the root end of the hair, we're looking at any potential skin cells that might be attached to the root end. So that's where the DNA that we're looking for is coming from. And if there's not too many, yeah.
Now, are you familiar with the term based on your training experience known as autosomal DNA?
Yes.
And can you describe for the jury what your understanding of that term is?
Yeah, so autosomal DNA is DNA that's located in the nucleus of the cell, and that's the DNA that we inherit from both mom and dad.
Now, are you also familiar, based on your training experience, with a term known as mitochondrial DNA?
Yes.
And can you please explain to the jury what your understanding of the term mitochondrial DNA is?
Yeah, so mitochondrial DNA is DNA that's found in the mitochondria of a cell, and we inherit that from the mother.
of
It may be somewhat
cells.
evident, but could you please explain to the jury sort of the difference between autosomal DNA on the one hand
I'm
and
such a nerd.
mitochondrial DNA on the other?
Yeah, so like I said, the autosomal DNA is the one that we have 2 copies of, where we inherit one from mom and one from dad. And then the mitochondrial DNA is a circular DNA that we just inherit from mom.
Now, is the Massachusetts State Police Crime Lab equipped to perform mitochondrial DNA testing?
You're like,
No, we're not.
Now, was the DNA extract from the hair also sent to that external vendor, Bodie Technologies, in Lorton, Virginia?
I'm not sure if the extract was sent, but I know that the shaft of the hair was sent to Bodie.
Now, what testing did you perform on the hair?
I did the regular DNA analysis process on the root end of the hair.
And that was done prior to it being shipped to that external vendor, is that correct?
Correct.
And what conclusions were you able to draw from the testing that you did on the hair?
Yeah, so there was no human DNA detected, and STR analysis was not performed.
Now, what does that mean, sir?
Yeah, so it means that I didn't detect any human DNA. So there might be DNA on there, but it was below what our instrumentation could detect.
what case was it where it was like not enough DNA? I'm blanking right now, but I recently covered a case where it wasn't enough DNA. Reason all this. Stop it.
Now, turning your attention to item 3-2.1.1, what is the description related to that item?
Same has like
It's a
25.
sample from the exterior of broken drinking glass.
And is there any further indication as far as the broken drinking glass, as far as where it was recovered?
Oh, yeah, 34 Fairview Road.
And were you able to generate a DNA profile from this item, the drinking glass?
Yes, I was.
And from your comparative analysis from this question item to that of the known standard of John O'Keefe, what did you conclude?
Yeah, so the DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors, including male DNA. The DNA profile from this item is at least 530 non-million times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown, unrelated individuals. This supports an inclusion.
This is the last time I'll ask you this, but just if you could reiterate to the jury, what does an inclusion mean?
Yep, so an inclusion is when I compared the known standard to the question item, and if the profile in the known standard is consistent with the profile in the question profile, that's an inclusion.
And that number again, as far as 530 non-alien, how many zeros again in that number?
That's a 1 followed by 30 zeros.
We get it. 30
Now, sir, if I could
zeros.
turn your attention to another item, 7-1.2.1. What is the description related to that item?
Sample from stain A on upper right leg of jeans.
And is there any further indication as to whom those genes belong to?
John O'Keefe.
Now, were you also able to generate a DNA profile from this item, the stain A on the upper right leg of Mr. O'Keefe's genes?
Yes, I was.
And from your comparative analysis from the question item to that of the known standard of John O'Keefe, what did you conclude with reference to that item?
The DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors, including male DNA. Contributor 1 is suitable for comparison, and due to limited information, contributors 2 and 3 are not suitable for comparison. The DNA profile from this item is at least 570 non-million times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown, unrelated individuals. This provides support for an inclusion.
Thank you, sir. Now, turning your attention to item 7-1.3.1, what is the description related to that item?
Sample from stain B on upper right leg of jeans.
And same genes as the previous item?
Yes.
Now, were you able to generate a DNA profile from this item, stain B, on the upper right leg of the genes of Mr. O'Keefe?
Yes, I was.
And from your comparative analysis from this questioned item to that of the known standard of John O'Keefe, what did you conclude?
Yep, so the DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors, including male DNA. The DNA profile from this item is at least 660 non-alien times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown, unrelated individuals. This provides support for an inclusion.
Now, sir, with reference to item 7-1.4.1, and again, these items with the dash and the point, is that what you were referring to earlier as the parent-child relationship between items?
Yes.
And what is the description for 7-1.4.1?
Sample from stain C on upper right leg of jeans.
Now, were you able to generate a DNA profile from this item from stain C on the upper right leg of Mr. O'Keefe's jeans?
Yes, I was.
And from your comparative analysis of this question item stain C to that of the known standard of John O'Keefe, what did you conclude?
The DNA profile is a mixture of at least 2 contributors, including male DNA. Contributor 1 is suitable for comparison. Due to limited information, contributor 2 is not suitable for comparison. The DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 2 contributors. The DNA profile from this item is at least 830 non-million times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe and an unknown individual than if it originated from 2 unknown, unrelated individuals. This provides support for an inclusion.
Now, sir, with reference to item 7-1.5.1, what was the description of that?
Sample from stain D on upper right leg of jeans.
Now, were you able to generate a DNA profile from this item from stain D on the upper right leg of Mr. O'Keefe's jeans?
Yes, I was.
And from your comparative analysis from this item to the known standard of John O'Keefe, what did you conclude?
The DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 3 contributors, including male DNA. The DNA profile from this item is at least 670 non-million times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown, unrelated individuals. This provides support for an inclusion.
Now, sir, did you also do some testing on an item 7-1.6.1?
Yes, I did.
And what was the description associated with that item?
Sample from stain E on upper right leg of jeans.
And were you able to generate a DNA profile from that item, stain E, on the upper right leg?
If he got hit, boom, by Karen and he just bounced back, why would he have a grass stain? A grass stain only comes from being dragged by people that beat you up. Okay. Anyways, that was enough.
Of Mr. O'Keefe's jeans.
All right, got a little
Yes, I was.
aggressive.
And from your comparative analysis from that question item to the known standard of John O'Keefe, what did you
Listen, tell
conclude?
me that.
The DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 2 contributors, including male DNA. Contributor 1 is suitable for comparison. Due to limited information, contributor 2 is not suitable for comparison. The DNA profile from this item is at least 1.0 decillion times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe and an unknown individual than if it originated from 2 unknown, unrelated individuals. This provides a support for an inclusion.
I used a different number there as far as a decillion. How many zeros is a decillion?
Yeah, a decillion is a 1 followed by 33 zeros.
Now,
30,
with each of those items that
33.
you just testified about as far as the jeans,
Dude.
the question items from the stains on Mr. O'Keefe's jeans, those were each located on the right leg, correct?
Correct.
Now, did you also perform some analysis on item 7-1.7.1?
I did.
And what is the description associated with that item number?
Sample from unstained areas of the exterior of jeans.
Now, were you able to generate a DNA profile from that item from the unstained areas of the exterior of Mr. O'Keefe's jeans?
I was.
And from your comparative analysis from this questioned item to the known standard of John O'Keefe,
And a
what did you
bullet.
conclude?
The DNA profile was
Yo, let's not forget 1 strand of hair. Made it through a blizzard, 60 miles per se. Yeah. Snow blizzard. I need to know whose hair that was, because whoever's hair that was, they have like good collagen in their hair. The elasticity is on point. Like, I need to know whose hair. That's crazy. A whole ass blizzard. That's sus.
interpreted as a mixture of 4 contributors, including male DNA. The DNA profile from this item is at least 53 septillion times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe and 3 unknown individuals than if it originated from 4 unknown, unrelated individuals. This provides support for an inclusion.
And again, sir, with that number, as far as 53 septillion times more likely, how many zeros in a septillion?
A septillion is a 1 followed by 24 zeros.
Tell me, Eternal, who did it? Who planted that
Sir,
hair?
if I could turn your attention to what's
Oh
listed as
my
number
God.
12 in your report, but item 7-18.4.1. Did you do some testing on that item as well?
Yes.
And what was the description associated with that?
Sample from stain C on top front of Gray's long sleeve shirt.
And the gray long sleeve shirt, is that attributed as belonging to a specific person?
Yes, John O'Keefe.
And were you able to generate a DNA profile from that item, specifically sample from stain C on the top front of the gray long sleeve shirt of Mr. O'Keefe?
I was.
And from your comparative analysis from that questioned item from the shirt to the known standard of John O'Keefe, what did you conclude?
So the male DNA profile was interpreted as originated from a single contributor. The DNA profile from this item is at least 58 octillion times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe than if it originated from an unknown, unrelated individual.
Hello, the
This
Don.
provides support for an inclusion.
Why are you
And
being
again,
a troll?
sir, that number
You
as far as
fucking
58
weirdo.
octillion times more likely.
What does that even
How many
mean?
zeros in an octillion?
So an octillion is a 1 followed by 27 zeros.
Now, sir, if I could take you down to listed as 15 in your report,
no.
but did you do some testing on item 7-18?
Kill the Don 21.
I did.
And what was the description associated with that item?
So sample from stain L on back bottom right of gray long sleeve shirt.
And were you able to generate a DNA profile from that item?
I was.
And from your comparative analysis with reference to that item, the sample from stain L on the back bottom
No,
right
you
of
can't
the gray
highly
long sleeve
classify.
shirt, in comparison to the DNA profile from the known standard of John O'Keefe, what did you conclude?
So the DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 2 contributors, including male DNA. The DNA profile from this item is at least 1.0 decillion times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe and an unknown individual than if it originated from 2 unknown, unrelated individuals.
Bye.
This provides
It's
support
nice
for an
knowing
inclusion.
you.
Now, sir, did you also perform some analysis on an item numbered 7-18.17.1?
I did.
And what was the description associated with that item, sir?
Sample from unstained areas of exterior of gray long sleeve shirt.
And similarly, were you able to generate a DNA profile from that item, the sample from the unstained areas of the exterior of the gray long sleeve shirt of Mr. O'Keefe?
I was.
And from your comparative analysis from that question item to that of the known standard of John O'Keefe, what did you conclude?
The DNA profile was interpreted as a mixture of 2 contributors, including male DNA. Contributor 1 is suitable for comparison. Due to limited information, contributor 2 is not suitable for comparison. The DNA profile from this item
not
is
wrong,
at least
Sandra.
960 nonillion times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe and an unknown individual than if it originated from 2 unknown, unrelated individuals. This provides support for an inclusion.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to group a couple, 4 separate items from your report, starting with
Thank you, Andre.
what's listed in your report as
You've
number
done
9 is
lovely.
item 7-3.1, correct?
Correct.
And what is the description associated with that item, sir?
Sample from stain D on bright instep of sneaker.
And 11 from your report, you also did some analysis on item 7-18.3.1, is that correct?
Correct.
And what was the description associated with that?
Sample from stain B on top front of gray long sleeve shirt.
And item 7-18.7.1, do you see that as well?
Yes.
And what was the description associated with that item?
Sample from stain F on top front of gray long sleeve shirt.
And lastly, in this group, item 7-18.8.1, what was the description associated with that?
Sample from stain G on back left sleeve of gray long sleeve shirt.
And with respect to each of those last 4 samples from those items, were you able to generate a DNA profile with respect to each of those 4?
Profiles were generated from them.
And what did you conclude based on the generation of those profiles with those 4 items?
Yeah, so the profiles that were generated were not suitable for comparison.
And if you could explain briefly to the jury, when you say not suitable for comparison, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so for 7-3.1, it was a mixture of at least 5 contributors. And at the DNA unit, we validated, basically we tested and made sure that our protocols were we can only interpret mixtures of up to 4 contributors. So I determined that there were 5 contributors, so that makes it too complex for us to do comparisons to it. So it's not suitable for comparison for that reason. And the other 3 items, due to the quality of the profile, they were not suitable for comparison. And basically what that means is that there were such low amounts of DNA that was in the sample that there was
Right.
a lack of information from the profiles themselves, so they weren't really suitable for comparisons.
And just to be clear, the item that you're referring to with the 5 possible contributors, that's a shoot, correct?
Correct.
Now, if I could turn your attention in your report to what you have listed as number 10, there are a number of different items listed there, correct?
Correct.
And starting with item 7-17.2.1, what is the
Conveniently,
description
yeah,
associated with
conveniently.
Sample from stain A on top front left of orange t-shirt.
that? And 7-17.3, what is the description associated with that?
Sample from stain B on top of front left of orange t-shirt.
And item 7-17.4.1, what is the description associated with that?
Sample from stain C on top front left of orange t-shirt.
And item 7-17.5.1, what is the description associated with that item number?
Sample from stain D on front bottom right of orange t-shirt.
And item 7-17.6.1, what is the description associated with that?
Sample from stain E on back left shoulder of orange t-shirt.
You guys are funny.
And so each of those respectively were samples taken from stains on the orange t-shirt of Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
Correct.
Now turning your attention to item 7-18.2.1, what is the description associated with that?
Sample from stain A on right sleeve of gray long sleeve shirt.
And item 7-18.5.1.
Not in the first trial, no.
Associated with that.
Sample from stain D on center front of gray long sleeve shirt.
And item 7-18.6.1,
I like me alone. I like.
what is the description associated with that?
Sample from stain E on center front of gray long sleeve shirt.
And item 7-18.9.1, did you generate a profile from that item as well?
Yes.
And what is the description associated with that?
Sample from stain H1 on back left of gray long sleeve shirt.
And item 7-18.10.1, what is the description associated with that?
Sample from stain H2 on back left of gray long sleeve shirt.
And item 7-18.11.1, what is the description associated with that?
Sample from stain I on back right shoulder of gray long sleeve shirt.
And item 7-18.12.1, what is the description associated with that?
Sample from stain J on back bottom right of gray long sleeve shirt.
And lastly, with this group search, item 7-18.13.1, what is the description associated with that?
Sample from stain K on back bottom right
Thank
of gray
you.
long sleeve shirt.
And so each of those
Sure.
items beginning with 7-18 were associated with various stains taken from various areas on the gray long sleeve shirt of Mr. O'Keefe, correct?
Correct.
And with respect to each of those areas of the orange t-shirt and the gray long sleeve shirt, were you able to generate a DNA profile from those items?
I was.
And from your comparative
Lenny?
analysis of
Are you
each
there,
of
Lenny?
the DNA profiles from those items to the known standard of John O'Keefe, what did you conclude?
So the male DNA profile was interpreted as originating from a single contributor. The DNA profile from these items is at least 490 octillion times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe than if it originated from an unknown, unrelated individual. This provides support for an inclusion.
Now, again, if you could just remind the jury, when you say single source contributor, what does that mean?
Yeah, so a single source profile is a profile that has one contributor to it. So like one person contributed DNA to that profile.
And with respect to the number as far as 490 octillion times more likely,
How
many zeros are in that number?
So an octillion is a 1 followed by 27 zeros.
Okay, so far 33 zeros, 30 zeros, and then 27 zeros.
Now, lastly,
you
sir,
thinking-
did you perform any analysis with reference to items numbered 8-2 and 8-3?
This is gonna be a quiz later.
I did.
And what were the descriptions, respectively, for items 8-2 and 8-3?
So item 8-2 was right hand fingernail clippings from John O'Keefe, and item 8-3 were left hand fingernail clippings from John O'Keefe.
So fingernail clippings
All right,
from both the right and
okay.
left hand of Mr. O'Keefe.
Oh my god.
Correct.
And were you able to generate a DNA profile from those item numbers, the right and left hand fingernail clippings? Of
I need
Mr.
mouth
O'Keefe?
to mouth. Who's
I
gonna
was.
give me mouth to mouth?
And based on, from your comparative
Just kidding.
analysis
Chill
of
out.
the
Chill
DNA
out, everyone.
profile from the right
Chill
and
out.
left hand fingernail clippings, both of Mr. O'Keefe, taken in conjunction with the known standard of John O'Keefe, what did you conclude?
Yeah, so the male DNA profile was interpreted as originated from a single contributor, and the DNA profile from these items is at least 490 octillion times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe than if it originated from an unknown, unrelated individual. this provides support for an inclusion.
So with respect to each the right and left-hand fingernail clippings of Mr. O'Keefe, both of those were identified by you or your analysis as a single source contributor, correct?
Correct.
And they were each 490 octillion
Okay,
times
no worries.
more likely to have originated from John O'Keefe than from an unknown, unrelated individual. Is that correct?
Don't be dirty.
Thank you.
I'm watching you guys. Have my eye on you.
Thank you, sir. I have nothing further.
Mayor, Your Honor?
Yes.
Octillion, trillion, schmillion, bajillion. Just answer C. C, mommy.
sir.
Good morning.
Is he not reading a script? I love Yannetti. Yannetti.
Mr. Porto, I would like to start by asking you about item 3-1.1.
Nobody tell
which
anybody
you've
I did that.
identified as a sample.
Y'all better not tell anyone because this will either go down or be a members only. Don't be telling everyone. I tried to kiss Yannetti because then everyone's going to be saying I'm a slore. Just don't
from
do
the
it.
passenger side taillight of the vehicle. Can you orient yourself in your report to that item?
Yes.
And that, of course, was the passenger side taillight that was attached to the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
You were never asked to do any DNA comparison on any pieces
Swore.
of taillight connected
Take
with
that
this
back
case,
right
correct?
now. I saw nothing.
Let me check my other.
Zip it. Unless you want me to make your hair fall out.
For taillight, there
Just
was
kidding.
another item that was
I
item
just told Mama.
3-3.1, which is sampled
Oh,
from
you're
apparent
moving
glass
on.
on rear bumper, if that's what you're referencing.
So if I suggested to you that the taillight was plastic,
Just
that glass
kidding.
wouldn't have been the taillight, correct?
I don't have, that's beyond my scope
Oh,
of testing.
shame.
Gotcha.
Oh,
Okay.
shame.
With regard to the passenger side taillight,
Oh, shame. Oh, shame.
you found that there were 3 contributors of DNA
Yo.
to that taillight attached to the vehicle, correct?
Correct.
One of those contributors appeared to be John O'Keefe, is that fair to say?
He was included into the profile.
I'm trying
With
to
regard
say
to the
I'll
other
come
2
on you and
contributors,
behave.
Who were they?
For fuck's
There
sake.
could be anybody.
Because people are like, oh my God, it's that girl who streams and she drinks. Oh my God, stay away from her. Oh my God. Dude, Ashane? Who the is Ashane? I can't breathe. The pen got my lungs.
Were you ever
never
asked
been- what?
to compare DNA
Amelie
samples
says
from
is like,
either Canton Police
to
Detective
bed.
Kevin Albert or Canton Police Chief Kenneth Berkowitz to the DNA profile that you
Dude.
analyzed from that
Okay,
passenger side
forget that I
taillight?
did that.
I was not.
Like,
Now, with regard to the broken drinking glass, which is item 3-2.1.1, do you see that in your report?
I do.
With regard to that, you came up with a DNA profile that also had 3 contributors, correct?
Correct.
One of those contributors appeared to be John O'Keefe, correct?
He was included, correct.
Who were the other 2 contributors?
I don't know. They could be anybody.
wait. I don't know. They could be anybody. Dude, I don't know. They could be anybody. DNA on a dead person. There's a man passed out in the snow. It could be anybody. Oh, it could be anybody. It could be anybody. What? Excuse me, sir. You better not be trying me for a crime when it could be possibly anybody. What is that even like? That's so fun. In the snow. In the snow. Yeah, no, that's
Were you ever asked with regard to that broken drinking glass to compare the DNA profile that you analyzed with the DNA of either Boston Police Sergeant Brian Albert or ATF agent Brian Higgins?
I was not.
ooh.
Now, with regard to
Wait,
7
what?
points of
Yannetti,
taillight connected
speak
with
to me,
this
baby.
case, correct?
Give it to me, baby.
Let me check my other report.
I'm in it, baby. I'm in it.
For taillight, there was another item that was item 2-3.1.
Yannetti's like, I'm gonna chew my gum up
which
here
is
because
sample
bitch,
from
I'm
apparent
bored.
glass on rear bumper,
Oh,
if that's
fuck?
what you're referencing.
Okay, so if I suggested to you that the taillight was plastic, that glass wouldn't have been the taillight, correct?
I love him.
I don't have, that's beyond my scope of testing.
Gotcha. Okay. With regard to the passenger side taillight, you found that there were 3 contributors of DNA.
Can
to
someone
that
give
taillight
Yannetti my
attached
phone
to
number?
the vehicle,
For fuck's
correct?
sake.
Correct.
One of those contributors appeared to be John O'Keefe. Is that fair to say?
He was included
Oh,
into the
no.
profile.
The
With
trolls will
regard
come
to
for
the
me now.
other 2 contributors, who were they?
They could be anybody.
Were you ever asked to compare DNA samples from either Canton Police Detective Kevin Albert or Canton Police Chief Kenneth Berkowitz to the DNA profile that you
Okay. I'm ready.
analyzed from
I'm
that
in trouble.
passenger side
The
taillight?
chunk glass
I
coming
was
out.
not.
Now, with regard to the broken drinking glass, which is item 3-2.1.1, do you see that in your report?
I do.
With regard to that, you came up with a DNA profile that also had 3 contributors, correct?
Correct.
One of those contributors appeared to be John
Yeah,
O'Keefe,
abuelita.
correct?
Tell
He was
him.
included, correct.
Who were the
Tell
other
him.
2 contributors?
I don't know. They could be anybody.
What?
Were you ever asked with regard to that broken drink?
I don't know. They could be anyone. Why the hell is it not Karen Reed on there? I want to know. Yeah, they live together, so her DNA should be on his shit. Still not sure if the tail light glass. Yo, that was planted. I swear. I swear. Take it from someone who has all this life experience. I promise you. I promise you, I don't do you dirty when I come up here and talk my shit because I know what I'm talking about. Scott's honor, I will behave. Don't behave. We don't behave here. Yeah, we don't behave here. Yeah, it's just the way we are. Yeah, no underwear, don't behave. You keep into oh, is this where we implicate police in the commitment? Exactly.
Drinking glass to compare the DNA
Look at Karen.
profile that you analyzed.
She's like, they setting me
with
up.
the DNA of either Boston Police Sergeant Brian Albert
Dude.
or ATF.
Whether John was tired of her shit or not, he was still dating her and texting her and entertaining her. So I don't want to hear it. I want to fucking hear it.
Agent Brian Higgins.
I was not.
Now, with regard to 7.1.2.1,
Miss
or
P.
maybe it's 7-1.
You better stop making fun of me,
That's
Miss
the
P.
stain A from the upper right leg of the jeans.
Correct.
All right. And you were aware, you were told that those were the jeans that John O'Keefe was wearing.
The
on
abuelita's
the
here to keep me in
morning
check, yo.
question when he was found?
Based on the sample description, that's what it seems.
All right. And it turned out that his DNA was on his own jeans, correct?
He was included in the profile.
All
from
right.
that
And
item.
that was unsurprising to you, correct? And with regard to that item, you found that there were 3 contributors of DNA, correct?
Correct.
With John O'Keefe being one of them.
He was included in the profile, yes.
And who were the other 2?
I don't know. They could be anybody.
No, you're fine.
Let's
Miss
move on
P.
to stain B, also from the upper right leg of the jeans. That is 7-1.3.1. You see that in your report.
I do.
When you found a DNA profile, how many contributors of DNA were there?
3 contributors.
All right. And again, this was John O'Keefe's genes, correct?
Based on the description, yes.
So he was one of the 3 contributors.
He was included in the profile, yeah.
Who were the other 2?
I don't know. They could be anybody.
Yannetti
Moving on
has
to
already asked him
stain
3
C
times.
from the upper right leg of the jeans. 7-1.4.1. You see that in your report?
I do.
With regard to the DNA profile that you analyzed there, how many contributors of DNA were there to that profile?
At least 2, and it was interpreted as 2 contributors.
And again, this is the same pair of jeans that he was found in, correct?
Based on the description, yes.
And you said at least 2 contributors. It actually could have been more than 2.
Based on our protocols, I had to call it 2, and we determined it as 2, but it could be more than 2, yes.
Okay. Well, let's pay attention to the one that was not John O'Keefe, at least that one. Who contributed that DNA to his pants?
I don't know. It could be anybody.
Moving on to stain D, which is 7-1.5.1. And if I can just put my glasses on to make sure I've read my own writing
sometimes
correctly.
I'm just gonna do what I gotta do.
Actually, is it
No fucking
7-15-1? Did I get that wrong the first time?
D?
I'm sorry?
Do you mean
stain
stain D?
Stain D.
Stain D is 7-1.5.1.
Oh, I had it right the first time. Okay. With regard to that stain, you also got a DNA profile. And how many contributors were there to that DNA profile?
I interpret it as 3 contributors.
And again, this John O'Keefe's genes, correct?
Correct.
He was one of the contributors to his own genes, correct?
He was included in the profile.
And
correct.
with regard to that stain on the upper right leg of his jeans, who contributed the DNA to who were the other 2 contributors of DNA to that stain?
I don't know. They could be anybody.
That's the 4th time he says, I don't know, it could be anybody.
And then finally, with regard to that upper right leg of the jeans, there was also a stain E, correct?
Correct.
How many contributors did you find to that DNA profile?
2 contributors.
One of which was John O'Keefe to his own genes, correct?
He was included, yes.
And who was the other contributor to that stain on the jeans?
It could be anybody. I don't know.
And by the way, just for the record, that was 7.1.6.1?
7-1.61.
7-1.6.1. Thank you, sir. Okay, now, with regard to the unstained area of the exterior of the jeans, do you see item 7-1.7.1?
Yes.
You found a DNA profile with regard to that unstained area as well, correct?
Correct.
How many contributors of DNA were there to that unstained area of the jeans?
I interpreted it as 4 contributors.
And John O'Keefe was one of those, correct?
He was included in the profile.
His own genes.
Based on the description, yes.
Who were the other 3 contributors to that DNA profile?
I don't know. It could be anybody.
And before we move on to the sneaker, I just wanted to
Can
ask
I
you a
have a-
question about the passenger side taillight that I neglected to ask you. That was the one where there were 3 contributors, correct? And again, I'm going back to 3-1.1.
Correct.
Sorry to skip around, sir.
Okay.
I'm not trying to make this
It's all
any
right.
more confusing than it is. With regard to the passenger side taillight and that DNA profile, are you able to determine when that DNA was deposited on the passenger side taillight that was attached to the vehicle?
No, I'm not.
Are you able to testify with any certainty that it was deposited there, say, on January 28th or 29th of 2022?
No, I can't.
So, consistent with your analysis of it, are you able to say whether it occurred prior to January 28th of 2022?
No, I can't.
Were you aware that that vehicle was John O'Keefe's girlfriend's vehicle?
I was not.
Were you provided any information about just how often he had been in and around that vehicle prior to January 28th of 2022?
I love Yannetti so much. That's all I'm thinking about.
So moving on to 7-3.1, which was the right instep of the sneaker, correct? You see that in your report?
Yep.
With regard to that particular stain, you noted how many contributors of DNA?
Yeah, it was interpreted as at least 5 contributors.
And when have interpreted it as at least 5 contributors. What does that do to your ability to find out who contributed that DNA?
So based on our protocols, we're not able to do any comparisons to any mixtures that are 5 or more contributors, so it's not suitable for comparisons.
Okay, which means that with regard to the sneaker at least, you couldn't even say whether John O'Keefe's DNA was on it, correct?
Wow.
And with regard to all 5,
He couldn't even say if John's DNA was on the sneaker. Yo.
do you have any idea who contributed the DNA to that sneaker?
No, I don't.
Now, moving on to, I just have a couple more for you, sir. Moving on to what is labeled as stain L, which is 7-18.14.1, I believe. Do you see that in your report?
I do?
And that was a stain on the back bottom of his long sleeve shirt, correct?
Correct.
And were you told that the long sleeve shirt was his outer clothing when he was found?
I don't believe so.
How many contributors to that stain on the back bottom of his long sleeve shirt did you find in that DNA profile?
I interpret it as 2 contributors.
And did you make any match with regard to either of those contributors or both?
I did comparisons, and John O'Keefe was included as one of the contributors.
Okay, so John O'Keefe was a contributor of DNA to his own long sleeve shirt, correct?
Based on the descriptions, correct.
All right, and whose other DNA was on that shirt?
I don't know.
And then finally,
time.
with regard
He says,
to
I don't know.
7-18.17.1, that was an unstained area of the exterior of that shirt, correct? That same long sleeve shirt.
Correct.
And you tested that and got a DNA profile, correct?
Correct.
How many contributors were there to that DNA profile?
I interpret it as 2 contributors.
Was John O'Keefe one of them?
He was included as one of the contributors.
Okay, so his DNA was found on his own shirt, correct?
Based on the description, correct.
And who contributed the other DNA
Good point,
profile
Dennis.
to John O'Keefe's sweatshirt?
I don't know.
With regard to any of the
I don't know. No. I don't know.
stains on the upper right leg of the jeans, I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that you've discussed here today. Were you ever asked to compare the DNA profile with the DNA profiles of either Brian Higgins or Brian Albert?
I was not. Oh,
Oh.
And your answer was you were not?
I was not.
And Bev said, I'll allow it. Bitch, you better allow that shit.
Did
Wait, no, because she's defending that.
anybody ever provide you with DNA profiles of Brian Higgins or Brian Albert?
Sustain to that.
If I may have one moment, Judge.
Yes.
Bev? Why does Bev look like she's always fucked up? For real, though.
I just have one more question for you, Mr. Porto, and I do want to thank you for answering all my questions here today. You wrote reports on your analysis of all the items and the work that you did on this case,
I did.
and you are directed pursuant to protocol to address those reports to somebody, correct?
Correct.
Who was it that
She's
you
probably
sent the reports
constipated.
to in this case?
Your
I'm
girlfriend?
sustaining the objection.
Did you send those reports to Michael Proctor?
Sustain.
Oh my God. Did you send all those
There is,
reports to Michael
strike
Proctor?
the question.
I love Yannetti so much. Ooh, so Andre here, little man Andre is dirty, not in a good way.
Point
Let me
one.
replay that.
That was an unstained
back.
area of the exterior of that shirt, correct? That
Rewind.
long sleeve shirt.
Please be kind, rewind.
And you tested that and got a DNA profile, correct?
Correct.
How many contributors were there to that DNA profile?
I interpret it as 2 contributors.
Was John O'Keefe one of them?
He was included as one of the contributors,
Okay, so his DNA was found on his own shirt, correct?
based on the description, correct?
And who contributed the other DNA profile to
I don't
John
know.
O'Keefe's sweatshirt?
I don't know.
With regard to any of the stains on the upper right leg of the jeans, I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that you've discussed here today. Were you ever asked to compare the DNA profile with the DNA profiles of either Brian Higgins or Brian Albert?
I was not. Oh,
Oh, Lord.
sorry.
And your answer was you were not?
I was not.
Did anybody ever provide you with DNA profiles of Brian Higgins or Brian Albert?
Sustained today.
If I may have one moment, Judge?
Yes.
I just have one more question for you, Mr. Porto, and I do want to thank you for answering all my questions here.
Oh my God, I love this. He's like,
wrote
"Let me say thank you."
reports on your analysis of all the items and the work that you did on this case,
I did.
and you are directed pursuant to protocol to address those reports to somebody, correct?
Correct.
Who was it that you sent the reports to in this case?
I'm sustaining the
Oh my God.
Did you send those reports to Michael Proctor?
Sustain. Jurors, strike the question.
I have nothing further. Thank you, sir.
I love how you know this.
Yes.
Grounds.
Mr. Porto, based on your training and experience and years of doing DNA testing at the lab, when it comes to samples from items of clothing, is it uncommon or common to have multiple contributors?
That depends. It can happen, but it's possible, yes.
What?
Is it something that's a complete anomaly?
I
No.
wouldn't say so, no.
Now, turning your attention back to item 3-1.1, that's the sample from the passenger side taillight of the defendant's vehicle, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. O'Keefe was found to, his known DNA profile was found to be an inclusion for the DNA profile from the swab from the defendant's passenger side taillight, correct?
He was included in the profile, yes.
And to what statistical, what is the number associated with that inclusion, sir?
The DNA profile from this item is 510 non-alien times more likely to have it originated from John O'Keefe and 2 unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unknown, unrelated individuals.
Now, Mr. Porter, if I could turn you back to number 10 in your report.
Yeah,
There's
you are.
A number of different items listed there, correct?
Correct.
And as far as the items listed associated with various stains on various areas of Mr. O'Keefe's orange t-shirt and gray long sleeve shirt, there's about 13 different DNA profiles that you generated in reference to those items, correct?
Correct.
And from those 13 different items, they're all from a single contributor, is that correct?
Correct. They were interpreted as originated from a single contributor.
And as far as the DNA profile, your comparison of each of those 13 different stains on the orange t-shirt and the gray long sleeve shirt, what were your conclusions again as your comparison with the known standard of John O'Keefe?
Yeah, so the profile was interpreted as originated from a single contributor, and the DNA profile from these items is at least 490 octillion times more likely if it originated from John O'Keefe than if it originated from an unknown, unrelated individual. This provides support for an inclusion.
And lastly, with reference to the fingernail clippings from both the right hand and the left hand of Mr. O'Keefe, those were also, your analysis provided for inclusion of Mr. O'Keefe's known DNA standard, correct?
he was included in the profile, correct?
Get that wine,
And
girl.
again, the profile from both the right hand
Get
and the
that
left
wine.
hand fingernail clippings was a single source contributor, correct?
Sustained.
How many sources were associated with those?
Objection.
Sustained.
Objection.
Okay. You all set, Mr. Unity?
Yes, Your Honor, thank
You
you.
are all set, Mr. Porto. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much. Where's the next witness?
Your Honor, the Commonwealth will call Ashley Valier to stand.
Okay. Jim.
Right hand.
You solemnly swear the evidence you give the court and jury in the case down here is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. One.
All right, Mr. Lally, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Ms. Valier.
Good morning.
Could you please introduce yourself to the jury, spelling your last name for the court?
My name is Ash Valier, spelled Vallier.
And where do you work?
I work at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory.
You guys are supposed to tell me when I like shit on my face, and I had like
And
enchilada
where did you go to school?
in my mouth.
I got my bachelor degree in biochemistry and cell biology from UC San Diego, and a master degree in biomedical forensic sciences from Boston University.
Now, following your education, where did you go to work from there?
Unbelievable.
Directly after I got my degree at Boston University, I worked at the Broad Institute.
And what did you do at the Broad Institute?
I did quality control checks of items that potentially could be tested for pharmaceutical use.
Now, how long have you worked at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory?
A little over 6 years.
Now, is the state lab accredited?
It is.
And by whom?
ANAB.
And what does ANAB stand for?
It stands for ANSI National Accreditation Board.
And the ANSI within the ANAB, what does that stand for?
That is another acronym that I don't recall right now.
Now, as part of
What?
that accreditation process, do you undergo any sort of type of proficiency testing?
I do.
And can you explain to the jury what that proficiency testing process consists of?
A proficiency test is a test that is given from an outside agency in the discipline that you do casework in, that you would work through like a normal case, but it has an end expected result at the end.
And how often do you undergo proficiency testing?
Every year.
In what areas do you specifically undergo proficiency testing in?
I've done proficiency tests in gunshot primer residue and physical match analysis.
And have you successfully completed each of those proficiency tests that you've taken?
I have.
Now, when you initially joined the State Police Lab, what was your position and title that you were hired for?
I was hired as a forensic scientist 1.
Now, can you please explain to the jury what your duties and responsibilities were as a forensic scientist 1?
So a forensic scientist 1 is the introductory level. It's when you start your training in whatever discipline you're going to be trained in and quality control checks. After you've been at the laboratory for over a year and you're signed off to do casework, you become a forensic scientist 2.
And you're currently a forensic scientist 2, is that correct?
Yes.
What is the difference between a forensic scientist 1 and a forensic scientist 2 at the Massachusetts State Police Crime Laboratory?
A forensic scientist 2 has been at the lab for over a year and can do casework.
Now, just in general terms, what does the trace unit do or examine within the State Police Crime Laboratory?
I'm a part of the trace arson and explosives unit. So we analyze a wide range of pieces of evidence. So trace covers a lot of small things. So paint, fibers, glass, gunshot primer residue, physical matches. Arson covers fire debris evidence, and explosives covers explosives.
Now, specifically with reference to physical match analysis, can you explain to the jury, just in general terms at first, how was that analysis performed?
So physical match analysis is piecing broken things together to see if they were at once a single item. Generally, you look at the questioned item first, the item that you don't know specifically where it came from. Look at that, and then you would look at the known item, which is an item with a known source, like specifically like this window or like this vehicle. They're analyzed at separate times. And then if it looks like there could potentially be a physical match, you would analyze them together and see if they have a mechanical fit.
Now, when you retrieve items just in general to do some sort of physical match analysis, where do you get those items from?
We have evidence storage locations at the laboratory.
And how are they typically packaged when you receive them?
They can be packaged in cardboard boxes, brown paper bags, heat-sealed plastic bags. It depends on the individual items.
And when you're doing this analysis as far as the physical match analysis, what do you do to your bench between your examination of separately packaged items?
I mean, before I do any analysis, I bleach my bench, clean my tools, and then put down a fresh sheet of butcher paper.
And why do you do that?
To make sure everything's clean.
Now, again, speaking more in general terms, on what types of evidence can you perform a physical match analysis?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Sure. In general terms, with your work within the lab, on what types of items can you perform a physical match analysis?
A lot. Anything that has a broken or irregular edge.
Would that include glass?
Yes.
Would that include plastic?
Yes.
What are some of the other things that would also include?
Any sort of like polymer, metals.
And when you're doing a physical match analysis, what instruments do you utilize in the course of that analysis?
Generally, I'll use a stereo zoom microscope. Depending on the size of the items compared, I can use other microscopes as well.
Now, what is a stereo zoom microscope?
A stereo zoom microscope is a microscope that's mounted on a stand, so it gives a wider range of view that you can look at larger items.
And how are you using that specifically in your physical match analysis of, let's say, items of plastic?
I'll use it to look at the edges and see if there's any like defining characteristics along those broken edges.
Now, as you're going through your analysis, do you document your work as you go?
I do.
And how do you do that?
With handwritten notes and with photos.
Now, at some point were you assigned to perform some work on lab case number 22-02184 pertaining to this defendant, Karen Reed?
Yes.
And what type of work were you assigned to do in this case?
I was asked to do physical match analysis, and then later on I was asked to look at, do some trace recovery, look at some debris.
Starting with the physical match analysis, how many different items approximately were you asked to look at?
Over 10.
Several, fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. And how were each of those items packaged when you received them?
So the questioned items were packaged first in a large paper bag, and then each item was individually packaged in a smaller brown paper bag within that container.
Now, again, just in general terms, because you've used it a couple times, when you say questioned item versus known item, as it pertains to this analysis in this case, what were the questioned items generally, and what was the known item?
The questioned items were items labeled as coming from a road, and the known item was labeled as coming from a taillight from a vehicle.
Now, in this case, did you perform your physical match analysis in the same manner that you've previously described based on your education, training, and experience within the lab?
Yes.
Now, initially, you had examined some various plastic and glass items, and there was a drinking straw in there as well, correct?
Yes.
And specifically, as far as the item numbers that you looked at in this physical match analysis, could you provide the jury with a list of just the item numbers first to start with?
May
Your
I?
Honor.
You have your report with you, Ms. Willett?
I do.
Okay. Is there any objection, Mr. Nady, to using the report?
No objection at all.
So feel free to use.
No objection at all,
Thank
said
you.
my boyfriend. Yeah,
So the questioned items labeled as coming from the road were item 7-5, item 7-6, 7-8, 7-9, 7-10, 7-11, 7-12, 7-13, 7-14, 7-15, 7-16, and 7-19. And the known item labeled coming from the passenger side taillight is item 3-1.
Now, Ms. Valier, within those specific item numbers of how things are labeled at your lab, if there are different pieces associated with the same item, how is it that you label those specifically in this physical match analysis here?
So some of the items had multiple pieces within that item. So I labeled them A, B, C, etc., depending on how many pieces there were.
Now, if you could, please explain to the jury just, again, the process that you followed in your examination of each of those items.
So first I looked at the questioned items, the items labeled as coming from the road. I looked at, I documented the overall package because they were all packaged in the same container, the same brown paper bag. Documented that individually inside of it, there were a bunch of individual brown paper bags. Documented that, and I went one at a time through them, opening each paper bag, taking written notes, taking photos of the items inside. Within each item, I looked to see if any of those pieces fit together. And I cleaned my bench in between the items.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
And Your Honor, fill the court, so I've shown Mr. Yannetti all these photos in advance.
Okay. Is there an objection to any of them,
There is
Mr.
no
Nady?
objection, Your Honor.
All right, so why don't we just go ahead and mark them all as evidence?
Your Honor, if I could, I was going to take them item by item.
Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Ms. Blair, I'm showing you.
was she in the first
photographs.
trial?
You recognize those?
I want to say she was.
I do.
What do you recognize those to be?
These are photos that I took of item 3-1.
Again, what was the description associated with item 3-1?
Passenger side taillight.
And was that description further give sort of a specific vehicle or license plate associated with the vehicle that the taillight came?
It does. Massachusetts 3GC684.
Your Honor, the Commonwealth will seek to introduce in a minute the next exhibit.
I'm sorry, I
Right,
think
those
she
are,
was.
those are covered. That's why I wanted to just mark them all because they're all covered, right?
That's fine. If the court prefers,
Yeah, I don't think she was.
provide them.
No, it's green. Which
Exhibits 170A through 170D.
that's green.
May I approach with the remainder, Your Honor?
Yes. And if you have them in sections, we can do that.
Ms. Blair, I'm showing you two more photographs. Just ask if you recognize those.
I do.
And what do you recognize those?
Photos I took of item 7-5.
And again, from your report, what was the description in reference to item 7-1?
Yeah.
Thank you. You're fine. It's Mr. Lavin. Yes.
Okay. Piece of plastic, red, recovered from 34 Fairview Road.
And Your Honor, the Commonwealth will seek to introduce in a minute the next exhibit A and B.
Okay.
Exhibit 171A and B.
My apologies, Your Honor. Yeah, with the court's permission, may I publish some of those?
Yes.
photos to the jury?
Is that what's
Ms. Gilman, if I could first ask for photograph 2122. And Ms. Blair, what's up on the screen, that is the bag associated with the passenger side taillight.
Ooh,
or
look at me.
correct?
Correct.
Jeez.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 2125. And Ms. Gilman, if you
Thought about
could,
watermelon.
just enlarge a little bit.
I think that's the
towards
thing, right? You
bottom
think about
where the river
watermelon.
is.
Your sneeze goes away. Wait, you thought I
Ms.
did
Blair,
what?
what's up on the screen now as far as
The hair?
sort of notations there? Who made those?
I did.
And how do you know that you
I
were
have
the
one
one
more
who made
drink.
those?
That's my handwriting, and those are my initials.
So the AMV is for your name, correct?
Yes.
And with respect to each of the items that you photographed, you had photographs that were taken of sort of what was in the evidence bag.
I think it's if
in
you look at a
total,
light or say watermelon, that
displayed
your
on your
sneeze goes
table
away.
that you
So I
would
always do
clean
that.
with the solution and everything else, correct?
Yes.
And Ms. Gilman, if you could just zoom out a little bit to show the item. And again, what's
That's the
up on the
light
screen, that is
broken
item
on.
3-1, the nose.
The light
and,
did
the
not
known
break
item as far
John's
as the
face,
taillight
and
from the
vice
defendant's
versa.
vehicle.
Yes.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have
No.
2126.
No.
And Ms. Villier, if you could just describe for the jury, what are we looking at in this photograph?
Those are the same items, just turned over.
And lastly, for this set, Ms. Gilman, if I could have 2135. And again, same item as far as 3-1, the tail light taken from the defendant's vehicle.
Yes.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could ask for photograph 1905.
Looks like Darth Vader's.
And Ms. Villier, as far as with each of these items, you take photographs when they're inside the bag and then once you take them out of the bag, correct?
Yes.
And Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 1908. And what are we looking at in this photograph?
The contents of item 7-5.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
There will be two more photographs. Do you recognize those?
I do.
And what do you recognize those?
Photos of item 7-6.
And that's one of the bag and then one when the item is taken out of the bag, is that correct?
Yes.
And what was the description for item
I
7-6?
can't believe Lolly's still here.
Piece of plastic, clear,
What the
recovered from
are you
34
doing?
Fairview Road.
Oh my god.
Colonel Como will seek to introduce in a minute the next exhibit, A and B.
Okay. 172 A and B.
And with the court's permission, may I publish those to the jury?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could
Dennis,
have photograph
did you have bruises on
1921,
your eyes?
and then photograph 1924. And what's depicted up on the screen is that what you just have before you as the photograph that you took of item 7-6 recovered from 34 Fairview Road.
Yes.
Thank you. May I approach the witness again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Two other photographs.
Never been hit in the face by a car. Thank you.
Can you recognize
Dennis.
those?
I do.
What do you
Being
recognize?
honest.
Photos I took of item 7-8.
And one of the bag and then one of the items removed from the bag, is that correct?
Yes.
And
You gotta
what
get
is
your
the
ass
description
asleep.
associated with item 7-8?
Piece of plastic, red and clear, recovered from 34 Fairview Road.
Como will seek to introduce in a minute the next exhibit, A and B. And Your Honor, with the court's permission, if I could publish those to the jury.
Yes.
Exhibits 172 A and B.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 1931 and then 1934. And Ms. Gilman, if you could zoom in just a little on those items, please. And Ms. Lear, again, what are we looking at in this photograph of item 7 dash? What are we looking at again in this photograph? Excuse me.
Photos of item 7-8.
Why do those pieces look so clean and like,
May I approach the witness again,
Clean.
Your Honor?
Yes.
you know what I mean? They survived the blizzard.
Two other photographs.
They just feel like, don't talk to me. No,
Do you
but
recognize those?
yeah.
I
think
do.
it's
What do you recognize
no,
those?
but
Photos of item 7-9 and 7-19.
I'm gonna have
And as
another
far
drink.
as the first
and
photograph,
then-
as far as the bag, and then second with the items taken out of the bag. Is that correct?
I'm gonna have another drink and then we can go sleep together and kiss and make out and pause. Just kidding.
Yes,
So 7-9 and 7-19 were contained in the same bag.
they were. I then separated them into 2 separate packages.
And as far as 7-9 and 7-19, respectively, if you could tell the jury what was the description for each of those items.
Item 7-9 was pieces of glass recovered from 34 Fairview Road. Item 7-19 is trace item black straw recovered from 34 Fairview Road.
Your Honor, will seek to introduce and admit as the next exhibit, A and B. May I publish, Your Honor?
Hold on.
Oh, forgive me.
74A and 174B.
Now you can publish.
My apologies.
I do.
Ms. Gilman, if
I
I could
work
have
super early.
1958, please,
I'm a little work to be.
and then 1962. And again, Ms. Lear, what are we looking at in this photograph?
The contents of that bag, item 7-9 and item 7-19.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Two other photographs, do you recognize those?
I do.
And what do you recognize as?
Photos of item 7-10.
And again, one of the bag and one of the contents of the bag, is that correct?
Yes.
And if you could, please tell the jury what was the description for item 7-10.
A piece of plastic, red, recovered from 34 Fairview Road.
No.
Seek to introduce and admit as
Don't
the next
ask.
exhibit,
You want to know my secrets.
Exhibits 175A
No.
and B.
May I publish that for the jury, Your Honor?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have
Nope.
1952.
I'm not even real. I'm a figment of your imagination. My
And
name's not real.
1956.
Nothing's real.
And again, Ms. Lear, what are we looking at in this photograph?
Photo of item 7-10.
Thank you. Gilman, you can take that down. May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Two other photographs, do you recognize those?
I thought they got rid of Lally. Why is Lally back in the picture?
I do.
And what do you
Literally,
recognize?
Lally, like,
Photos of item 7-11.
And again, one photo of the bag and one photo of the items outside of the bag.
Yes.
And again, if you could, please tell the jury what the description
Molly's-
is associated with item 7-11.
Lally's really long.
Piece of
hair.
plastic, 6, red, clear, and black,
Okay.
recovered from 34 Fairview Road.
Tara.
Introduce and admit as the next exhibit, A and B.
No, we're doing that on a Melly After Dark, Jules. Who came in here and said that? I hit twice? What does that mean, hit twice? I didn't hit that ass. No, what do you mean? What does that mean?
Exhibits 176A and B.
Tonight, not tonight.
And may I
no,
publish,
not
Your Honor?
tonight, babes.
Ms. Gilman, 1979 and 1982.
Tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow.
Again, Ms. Lear, I'm sorry, Ms. Gilman, if you could zoom in just a little on the items themselves. And Ms. Lear, what are we looking at in this photograph?
Photo of item 7-11.
These are photos, again, that you took in the lab during the course of your comparative or physical match analysis, correct?
Yes.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Two other photos, if you could look at those. Do you recognize those?
I do.
And what do you recognize those?
Photos I
That's
took of
so
item
bad.
7-12.
And again, photograph of the bag, photograph of the items outside of the bag.
Yes.
And if you could, please tell the jury what's the description of item 7-12.
Trace item 14 glass and clear plastic recovered from 34 Fairview Road.
Now, the Commonwealth will seek to
Hang on,
introduce the
Twitch.
minutes and next
Okay.
exhibit, A and B.
Exhibit 177A and 177B.
Your Honor, may I publish?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have photograph 2015.
Yeah, we're only watching a little bit more of this because
And again,
Someone
Ms.
look
Gilman,
at it.
if you could just zoom in a little on the items. Thank you. And Ms. Hilaire, again, can you describe what's depicted up on the screen?
A photo I took of item 7-12.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Two other photographs. Do you recognize those?
we've already been up here for 2 hours too.
I do.
And what do you recognize those?
Photos I took of item 7-13.
I do have another BLO
And
that I
again,
kind of
one
want to bring.
of the bag and then one with the items removed from the bag.
Yes.
And if you could, please tell the jury what's
Don't call me a drunk.
the description for item 7.
That's rude. I'm not.
Piece of plastic, red and black, recovered from 34 Fairview Road.
Maybe I am. I your fucking
Let's
business.
seek to introduce the minutes and next exhibit, A and B.
I'm over here like talking to myself.
Exhibit 178A and 178B.
Oh boy. Okay, I'm gonna get another beer.
Your Honor, may I publish?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, 1997. And 2000.
Everybody, Jules. Everybody. Everybody.
And again, Ms. Gilman, if you could, please zoom in on the items. Thank you.
I'm just talking to myself. Arguing
And
to
Ms. Hilaire,
yourself.
directing your attention to the screen, can you describe to the jury
You're in
what is
trouble.
depicted on the screen now?
Listen.
A photo I took of item 7-13.
Until you're gonna get spanking.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Two other photos. Do you recognize those?
I do.
And what do you recognize that?
Photos I took of item 7-14.
And again, one of the bag and one of the item removed from the bag.
Yes.
And again, can you please tell the jury what the description is associated with item 7-14?
Pieces of glass recovered from 34 Fairview Road.
I want to seek to introduce the next exhibit, A and B.
Exhibits 179A and B.
Should we end this live and do like
Yeah,
a little
publish, Your
chit chat, like Jules said?
Ms. Gilman, if I could have 2009
But I'm an angel.
and 2012.
I'm an angel. Oh,
And again, Ms. Gilman, if you could zoom in on the item.
if you're an angel, I'm an angel. That's
And
funny.
Ms. Hilaire, as far as what's
Even my
depicted
birth
on the
mother would
screen,
be like,
again, if you could describe for the jury what that is.
A photo of item 7-14.
I know, but
May I
I'm
approach
also
the
like
witness again, Your Honor?
Yes.
sleepy. Come on, do it. Yeah, because I can't stay up for the rest of this live for,
You recognize those?
we're gonna have to continue. Well,
I do.
yeah, because
And
it's
what
still
do you
like,
recognize that?
Photos of item 7-15.
And again, one of the bag and one of the items taken from the bag, correct?
Yes.
And if you could, please tell the jury what is the
Can I?
description associated with item 7-.
yeah, I could end this and we can hop over
Piece
to
of
Miley
plastic,
after dark.
3 clear and 5 red, recovered from 34 Fairview Road.
The Commonwealth will seek to introduce and admit as the next exhibit, A and B.
180A.
It's because you guys want to know all my secrets. You guys want to know the tea.
May I publish?
You guys want to know the shit. Because you know I got the goods. You know it.
Well, Sharon,
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have 2072.
No, I could end this live and we can do another live.
Yes.
Yes.
And 2077, please. Again, if you could zoom just a little as far as the items are concerned. And Ms. Valier, what are we looking at in this photograph?
Item 7-15.
May I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Oh, I see. Mine was on the price.
Other photographs, do you recognize that?
Okay, I'll schedule
I do.
it right now.
What do you recognize that?
Photos I took of item 7-16.
Just for like a little bit, because I gotta go
The
and
bag
paint.
and one of the contents from the bag, is that correct?
Yes.
And if you could, please tell the jury
I need
what
my
was
beauty
the
sleep.
description associated with
Ta-da.
item 7-16.
Piece of plastic, red and clear, recovered from 34 Fairview Road.
I'm also seeking to introduce the minutes of next exhibit.
Exhibit 181A and B.
May I publish, Your Honor?
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have 2036 and 2040. And Ms. Gilman, if you could zoom in just a little. Thank you
Dude.
very much.
I know it
Ms.
wasn't
Valier,
the glass.
if you could, please
There's
describe
no
to
way.
the jury what we're looking at.
Unless someone used
in
their
this particular
hand.
photograph.
This is item 7-16.
Ms. Gilman, you can take that down.
It's 11:11. Make a wish. Dumb wish for me
Now,
to did you
with
and get
respect
me.
to each of these items that you examined in your physical match analysis, again, as far as the process is concerned, with the questioned items, what are you doing with reference to each of those questioned items first?
We can do feet pics. Not tonight.
First, I document them as you've seen. I'll see if any of those within the item have a physical match with each other. And then I'll package that away and look at all the questioned items
Is she
before
okay
I
or is
compare
she nervous?
inter-questioned items to see if there are any physical matches in between all of the 7- items.
And as far as your notes are concerned, what is it that you're noting in reference to each of those
We are
items?
in
as
2
far as
minutes.
what characteristics of the item are you taking note of?
I'll note the size, the color, and the material.
And what, if any, measurements do you take of each of those respective items as well?
I'll take the length and width of each item.
Now, with respect, starting with item 3-1, the passenger side taillight from the defendant's vehicle, sort of internally within that item 3-1, what did you conclude as far as your physical match analysis within that item alone?
Within item 3-1, I believe 4 of the pieces fit together.
And, Your Honor, if the witness may refer to her notes
Yes.
as to, thank you.
Okay, and if you let me see when's a good time to pause.
Yes, four of the pieces fit together within item 3-1.
And which 4 of the pieces?
Pieces A, B, D, and F.
And as far as the labeling of those pieces of an individual item, let's just start with item 3-1. A, B, D, and F, how are they labeled and how do you sort of physically label those items?
We have a label maker in the lab, so I'll print out the case number, the item number, and then A, B, C,
Oh,
and my
maybe.
initials, and that
I'm
goes physically on each of those items, of those pieces.
So if any of those items had a sticker on it with a letter or something associated with that, that would be something that you did during the course of your physical match analysis, correct?
Yes.
Now, if I could turn your attention to item 7-5, piece of plastic red recovered from 34 Fairview Road. What did you conclude as far as your physical match analysis just within that single item?
There was no physical match noted among those 3 pieces of apparent plastic.
And when you say no physical match found from the different pieces within that item, what does that mean?
The broken edges of each piece did not align.
So the broken edges of the individual pieces within item 7-5 did not fit together with the broken edges of pieces within item 7-5, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, with respect to item 7-6, a clear piece of plastic recovered from 34 Fairview Road, what did you conclude based on your physical match analysis just pertaining to that item 7-6?
So this item was 2 pieces of colorless apparent plastic, and there was no physical match noted between those two pieces.
Wow. No physical
Now,
match.
with reference to item 7-8, red and clear plastic recovered from 34 Fairview Road, what did you conclude in regard to your physical match analysis just with the pieces contained within item 7-8?
So there were 14 pieces. Pieces C and D fit together, and pieces E and F fit together.
And when you say fit together, is there a term of art used within your field called a mechanical fit?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jury what you understand that term to mean as far as what is a mechanical fit?
So a mechanical fit and a physical match are the same thing. It's when the broken edges align together to show that they were once a single item.
Now, if I could turn your attention to item 7-9, pieces of glass recovered from 34 Fairview Road. What were you able to conclude from your physical match analysis of just the individual pieces contained within item 7-9?
So this item had 3 pieces, and no physical match was found between those.
Turning your attention to item 7-10, red pieces of plastic recovered from 34 Fairview Road. What were you able, that is a single item, is that correct?
Correct.
So no physical match because there's nothing to match, it's just one piece, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And turning your attention to item 7-11, identified as 6 red, clear, and black pieces of plastic recovered from 34 Fairview Road. What did you conclude in regard to your physical match analysis just within those pieces contained within 7-11?
So that item had 6 pieces, and there was no physical match noted among those 6.
Now, turning your attention to item 7-12, which was identified as 14 pieces of glass and clear plastic recovered from 34 Fairview Road. Again, what did you conclude from your physical match analysis just from the various pieces contained within item 7-12?
So there were 14 pieces overall. Pieces B, C, D, F, and K fit together mechanically as one unit. And then pieces E and I fit together mechanically as one unit. And pieces M and N fit together mechanically as one unit.
Now, through your examination of these pieces in particular and other pieces as well, did you note any debris contained on the pieces that you located?
Yes.
And can you say anything as far as what that debris was, or was there any analysis done of that debris specifically?
I just note that there was debris present, and I package it into a tin that's retained with the original packaging.
Now, turning your attention to item 7-13, that was a piece of plastic, red and black, recovered from 34 Fairview Road. Is that correct?
Yes.
And again, just with respect to your physical match analysis of the various pieces of 7-13, what did you conclude?
So that item had 3 pieces, and There was no physical match noted among those three.
And again, with reference to item 7-14, piece of glass recovered from 34 Fairview Road, that was again a single item, correct?
A single piece, yes.
So I'll turn your attention to item 7-15, 3 clear and 5 red pieces of plastic recovered from 34 Fairview Road, is that correct?
Yes.
And what were you able to conclude from your physical match analysis, again, just from the various pieces contained within item
No,
7-15?
you stayed up.
So there were 8 pieces
I
in this
felt bad,
one. Pieces F and H fit together mechanically.
Turning your attention to
There's a break
lastly
coming up,
for this
so I wanted to
purpose,
pause
item
it.
7-16, piece of plastic, red and clear, recovered from 34 Fairview Road. What were you able to conclude from your physical match analysis just contained within the pieces of that single item, 7-16?
So that item had 7 pieces. Pieces A, C, and D fit together mechanically.
Now, Ms. Valier, once you had examined each of those pieces individually, what did you do next in your analysis?
Next, I compared all of the inter-questioned, these items 7-5 to 7-16. I compared them to
shocked
see
you
if
and
there was
I'll
a
stay
mechanical
and
fit
I'll wait.
amongst those, between those items.
I guess be like,
Mr. Lally, is this a good place for our
fine.
vote?
It's perfect, yes, Your Honor.
All right, jurors, we'll take our morning break.
Okay,
See
so that's our break.
you.
We'll finish this one and then do the next. I'll have to write this down. And do the next day tomorrow. Dude, don't judge me because I'm behind. I enjoy watching it and having like group conversation anyways. Like I think that's way better. Okay. We're going on an after dark after this for just a few minutes until I finish my beer. And then I'm going to bed and you better get your ass to bed too. Okay, ending the slide, hit the like button. I'm asleep, but I'm glad I stopped liking. Yay! Yeah. Hit the like button. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you guys. That judge looks like a mean stepmother. Justice for Officer John O'Keefe. Okay, see you on the after dark right now. Hop over there. Don't go to sleep. Hey.